Question of the day. Well, two actually. What is your favorite underutilized mechanic? It's a mechanic that you absolutely adore, but it doesn't get used that often, right? That's number one. Number two is, what is your favorite game that you can't get to the table very often at all? Like, you love it and you want to play it so often. Some people that'll be Twilight Imperium, some people it'll be Blood Rage, some people that'll be Ticket to Ride or Agricola, right? But let me know what your favorite game is that you can't get to the table very much. I'll tell you mine. Mine are 18xx games. I love that system. It's just fantastic, right? But the problem is, you're talking about a very long investment. Even 18 Chesapeake, which is one of the shortest ones, has a 2.5 hour tag on it, and that's a long time if people are just, not rolling and going in their turn. But wouldn't it be great if you could take a game that you can't get to the table and take a game that takes it and scratches a lot of the same itches and also uses my favorite underutilized mechanic, and that is one step remove stock market control. And what I mean by that is, you don't play as the players in the game, you play as investors who then use the players in the game to make their companies do the things that you want them to do. Which brings us to Tran-Siberian Railroad from Rio-Grande Games. If you looked at this game, first of all, I have a problem where if I see a game in a skinny box, I kind of slide it a little bit. I'm like, well, I wonder what this is all about. It's a skinny box. It's not the biggest thing. It comes out of nowhere. Trans-Siberian Railroad. You're thinking maybe there's some electric guitars, right? But no, this is literally about building a railroad across Russia and avoiding nationalization. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Soviet nationalization, Red Russian. No. This is 18th century white, capital W, white Russian, czars nationalizing the railroads. So, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it is a game that uses stock market removed players and also scratches a lot of the itches of an 18xx game. But don't let that scare you, because the time on the side of the box is 1 hour, and it absolutely is. Let's look at how you play this game. We'll come back up, talk final thoughts right now. Alright, so here we are, Trans-Siberian Railroad all set up on the table just like this. Just like that, we're set up for a, whatever person game you want to play, because currently it's 3 to 5, but currently it doesn't matter. The only thing that changes player count is how much money you get to start the game off. You'll get less money with more people. Now there's paper money. This is a wink and a nod. Just know that the paper money doesn't have to be used. You can throw this away. It's not a set bank, and you could use poker chips, but this is a wink and a nod. We'll talk more about that in the final thoughts, or I probably already talked about it in the intro. Haven't shot that yet, but we'll figure it out. But you know what I'm talking about. There are player boards for everybody. Everybody gets this player board, which is in fact a reference card. It's a very good reference card. So anything in blue is kind of a good hint that this cube here, the timing track, will advance. Now, if you played other games such as the 18xx series, normally those are based on breaking the bank. Well, this one is not. This one's played over 6 rounds that are based on these timing things. Anytime the timing cube gets down to 5 and you pay dividends, you'll move the dividends track up. Once it hits 6 here, that's one of the in-game triggers. The other one is when a stock hits 75 in value, or there's less than 2 public train companies in play still. I'm not going to pronounce these. I don't know how to pronounce them. I don't read Russian or Greek for that matter. Yes, Greek letters is where they got some of them. I don't, so I do actually read Koine Greek, but not in this context. This is Russian. It does have here, this is where the stocks start. Stocks, trains. Sounds familiar, right? But that's what we're talking about. That's what's great about this. There are 5 different companies, 6 different companies, 4 that are in play at the start. Red, blue, green, yellow. Yes, we're going to call them that. The game starts with an auction. The minimum bid is 8, but the maximum is whatever you want. So let's just say in a 5-person game, which it's really great at 5, by the way. A 5-person game, you get 32 per player, 4 persons 40, and then 3 players is $48 per person, or rubles, or whatever it is. What's going to happen is you'll auction off these different stocks, so the opening stocks to start with, so you're only going to auction one of each one of these 4. Then the person who owns a share of the yellow company will be the one to start the round. Now what happens is, on a normal game round, you have the 5 different railroad cubes over here. This is where you set the stock value. So let's just say we've set the stock value for 8 for yellow, and it also has a cube coming out of Moscow, because when you buy one, you start it at Moscow. So we're going to start here. It is on a 3-level train. It's hard to see. Let's see if we can zoom in. You see how there's numbers on these routes? Those numbers correspond to the value of the actual train itself. So, or the value of the income. So this train company, yellow, is now 3. So you'll also mark that over here. So the stock value price is 8. It's 3, and this is the route it starts to be connected to. So everybody will do that. We're not going to put one out for all of them, but just know that they will all have one out here. And it's usually smart to connect to a higher value, but the downside of that is sometimes these train routes will cap off. For instance, if you go north, not a lot of options up there. Now let's just say we had bid 24. Let's say the bid for blue had gotten all the way up to 24. Now we don't have to set the stock value at 24. We can set it at less than. So let's set it at 12, knowing that we're going to have fewer money to spend, less money to spend. Never know which one's right. Carla will tell me. On there. So we now have a cube of 3. The income is also 3. So we're just going to use these two for examples because honestly, we don't need more than that for the examples. On your turn, you can either A, buy stock. You can buy a single stock for the price value of the share. So $8 a share for yellow. If you want to buy more into yellow, well then you can pay $8 a share for yellow. When you buy one, nothing else happens. You just buy that stock, that's your turn, play pass to the next person. Or you have the option too of buying 2 separate stocks. You can't buy 2 of the same, but when you buy 2 shares, first of all, you pay for the 2 stocks, based on the amount, and then one of them you're going to pay a $4 bonus to. You choose. Then you're going to move the timing cube forward because you've done 2 actions, which is typically what happens. Not 2 actions, but you've done a double buy. And then you're also going to advance the time cube. Now, that's buying stock. That's the same no matter what you do. The important thing of why you want to buy stock is once you own, or once a company has 2 shares sold, to use some terminology from an 18xx game, that means that company's floated and it can start acting out on the board. So let's just say we have 2 shares of yellow now, either between myself and someone else, or I own 2 shares of it. Well, if I own both shares, I'm the only one that can act because no one else has a majority share over me. However, if someone else had 2 shares of this railroad, then we could both act for that railroad. And when we act for the railroad, we build tracks, which is the next option you can do. So number 2 is build links. See this here, B? You can build 1 link, and that is $4 per link plus 2 for each jump. So let's just say that blue actually wants to build out to here. Well, then I have to pass yellow to do it. If I do, that's no problem. It's 4, and then I pay 2 to yellow. Now, here's what's interesting. I should have mentioned this earlier. You're not playing as you. Well, you are, but out here on the board, you're not you. You're an investor investing into these companies. So let's just say I bid $24 into blue, like we said. That means that blue now has $24 of company money to use. I have my personal money over here that I started the game with. Whatever I don't spend in the auction, I then have. The company has whatever money people invest in it. So let's say 2 shares of blue are now gone at $12 a piece. Well, then actually it'd be 24 because that's what we said at first. So I bid 24 and then I set the value at 12. So that's 24 plus 12 is $36 of money to use for this. That means for building tracks and building links and such as that. The reason that's important is when you build 2 links, it gets expensive. It's $12 plus 2 per jumped link. So you could build 2 out here. When you do that, let's just say I built 2 with this blue one. So we've jumped 1 and then we're going to go here. There. So now we've put cubes on 2 and 2, which means we raise the income up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you do 2 links, you will raise the stock value, which means now to buy into that train, $16. If you were to hit one of these black spaces over here on this board, you'll also raise the stock value. Now that's important because at the end of the game, if your company that you're invested in, if you have shares in public companies, that means ones that haven't been nationalized. Those Soviets, they loved nationalization back in the 1800s. And after. If you haven't nationalized, if you have public shares that haven't been nationalized, at the end of the game, you get to count those shares for their stock value. Otherwise, you would pay them out as dividends, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That's an important factor. Now, number 2 is building tracks, building links. The other one is build an external link. The purple dots out here are external links. They're $8 plus 4 per jumped link. Essentially, they're typically worth a pretty good amount when it comes to the income. So this is a 6, this is a 5, this is a 5. But that's all they do. But when you do an external link, you also raise the timing cube and you also raise the stock value, and which includes raising it again if you've done that. That's building links. The third thing you can do is pass, and when you pass, you advance the timing cube. Sometimes players can't act, and so that timing cube is going to get advanced no matter what you do. So you're going to keep doing that until this timing cube hits pay dividends. What you'll do is you'll go down for each of the different rails, their income amount, whatever it is. So let's just say it's 10 for blue. Well, we have 2 blue shares sold, which means that they're this amount divided by the amount of shares sold is how much it's worth. So it'd be worth $5 a share. I own 2 shares, it means I get $10. That's what it is. You're taking the entire value and dividing it up by the company. It's how stocks work. Now, you can continue buying into other people's companies, and even if you're not a acting member, which you're not calling the shots, you're not saying, okay, I want to do blue this turn, I want to build links with blue, or next turn I want to build links with yellow because I happen to be a operational majority. You can still own a share in someone's company and just benefit from the dividends from that, and then hopefully if it stays public at the end of the game, you can then also get those dividends and those stock values from it. So it's a little nuanced thing. You're going to keep doing this. You'll pay dividends. You'll move the nationalization track up each time you do. Now, there is also a note where there's certain things that will cause us to move 3 spaces. Now, why that matters is eventually you're going to get to phase 2. When some company's stock value hits 48, phase 2 will start at that next dividends phase. Essentially what happens is you're going to do another auction and put black and white in. You'll pay the dividends out, and then anybody at the next time it comes around on this phase, anybody who is behind, any train company that is behind the nationalization cube or under it will be nationalized, which means it's taken off the board, it pays out dividends one more time, and it's gone, which means at the end of the game, you don't get the stock value for the shares that you own, which could severely swing your game because these are worth a lot if you can get their stock. If you bought them for 12 and by the end of the game you've got them up to 60, that's a fantastic investment. Well, technically 2 would be a 100% investment, $12, whatever. Math's wrong on that, but you get the point. Ideally, what's going to happen is you're going to keep making sure that your companies that you're invested in continue to move upwards and they continue to grow and continue to stay good enough of a company where their investment value is so high that they will not be nationalized and the government won't come take them over. Because if they do, you're going to lose out on points. But that is the game. These come into play. You say, now, Brian, why would you be tempted to do the black and the white ones at the end of the game? It seems awfully high to invest in them when potentially you're 3, 4, 5 rounds in the game when they come in. Well, if you get them in and you get their stock value high enough, you can keep them. Let's just say it comes in at 48, right? Let's say you have $48 worth to invest in it. You think, man, that's a big chunk if I don't get it up. But if you get it moved up and you have shares in that company, you're making a good investment for something that doesn't involve a ton of work, because you can then just build it across and on these other places that are already out here. The person with the most money at the end of the game wins. You don't forget, you take your actual personal cash and then you get money, essentially, for the value of your public shares of stock. And that's the game. So that's Trans-Siberian Railroad. I'm going to say it right now. I don't just like this game. I don't just love this game. I adore this game. I love it so much. And it's probably because I love that one step removed stock market players thing. I love that mechanic so much. And the only games that come to mind is City of the Big Shoulders, which I don't have and I want to get my hands on. And then 18xx games where you are manipulating the players as it. Now, 504 did a version of it where it was in the game, right? That's what 504 was all about. And then also there was a stock market expansion to Power Grid. But that's all I know. Let me know in the comments below, what are some other games that use this mechanic? First of all, art. No, I get it. It's not, you're not writing home about this. You're not like, man, this is the most beautiful game I've ever seen. But hear me out. There's a reason it looks like it does. And I mentioned the paper money. The paper money is there because the designer, I promise, I'm not getting inside of their head, but I want to say is almost winking at the camera going, hey, paper money, trains, stocks, you know what that means, right? Without coming out and saying, hey, this is like an 18xx game, because nowhere on there does it say that. But the paper money, the map, the stocks, everything, they're pretty straightforward. It's just paper. Would I like it to look more like the Mayfair edition of 1830? Yes, I would. I really would like to see this game fleshed out. What I'd really like is this game to have the theme of Southern rails, where it's a Southern America rails, and we can't really involve the nationalization thing, but you could come up with something else, like a bigger corporation comes and buys you out, because I like that theme more, that Southern states and all that, so Mobile being in it. This one, though, it's not the prettiest thing. It's nothing to write home about. I'd give it like a 5 or 6 on art. It's not, I mean, maybe a 5, because it's just right in the middle. But that's not why I love it. That's not what I love about this game. What I love about this game is how it takes the elements and ideas from big, heavy train games, and it shaves them and smooths them, sands them down, and distills them into a product that is beautiful, because it teaches you how to use this mechanic of, you don't play as blue. You play as someone playing as blue and maybe yellow and maybe later in the game as red. What it doesn't do, it doesn't allow you to sell shares. So you're not worried about, okay, well, can I sell a share to float my cap? You're never going to need that. You're going to make your money from dividends, and you're going to use those dividends to invest in other trains. Because one of the conundrums that we had early when we started playing this was, well, how do the trains get more money? I mean, once they run out, they're done. You're going to have to invest in something else. And it hit us. Oh, when someone invests, including buying another share of the trains that they already have, you're refilling the coffers of that company, therefore allowing it to go further and do more. It just works. Everything about this makes sense. It works. It doesn't make you angry when you think you're going to control a train and you're going to get it public and it's going to work, and then all of a sudden the daggum czar comes in and is like, give me your train. I want it for my company. I want to own it here in the government. It was a terrible impression, but it was better than anything in the 1980s WCW era. Come on, right? Real American athlete, real Russian athlete. If you catch that reference, let me know in the comments and I will appreciate you forever. Anyway, point being, the game does what it does correctly. It does it smartly, it does it fun, and the other thing, turns are fast. Your turn is, I'm buying a stock, I'm buying 2 stocks. All right, move the cube, let me pay this, and I'm done. The only thing that slows it down is paper money. Paper money is a natural slowing in a game. If you use chips in this game, you're going to be zipping, because it's like, all right, I'm building a track, move my income up. I'm only building 1, so it's your turn. It's my turn already? Yeah, it's your turn. Okay, I'm building 2 tracks. I'm putting 1 here, 1 here. My income goes up 7. That means my stock value goes up 2. Boom, your turn. It's that fast. Yes, there's a little analysis paralysis with it, but I adore this game. This is one of my favorite train games, period. It is the game that I will use to now introduce people to 18xx games, because this is that slippery slope where you go, oh, that was a pretty cool mechanic, wasn't it? Where you're buying and selling stocks and you run that company, but all of a sudden I now run that company, or we both can run that company. It's so good. Trans-Siberian Railroad, don't let the box and the art fool you. If you like train games, but you don't want the time investment, 100% go out and get this game. If this isn't on my favorite games of the year at the end of the year, I'll be shocked. I love it that much. I know that seems crazy. It seems a bit heady, but I love this game. So I'm Bryan Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Bryan. Until next time, we'll see you.